Good evening from Mission Control in Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Johnson Space Center. As we go on the air, you are looking live at the passageway between the Harmony module of the International Space Station and the connecting tunnel leading to the SpaceX Dragon Freedom that is housed at the moment on the zenith or space-facing side of the Harmony module. It is through that passageway that NASA astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, along with NASA astronaut Nick Hague, the Dragon commander, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov will be floating through a short time from now. Nick Hague, the commander of the Dragon Freedom, floating through the hatchway. We will see Williams and Wilmore shortly as they are completing their suit-up activities. The final suit-up will take place once the 4 crew members are inside Dragon and the hatch is closed between Dragon and the International Space Station. The station hatch on that side of the docking interface will be closed after the Dragon hatch is closed. Wilmore and Williams have performed informal suit and seat fit checks on orbit using 2 spare suits on the International Space Station. The SpaceX team supported this effort and gathered data to make an informed decision on the suits that they would wear on the ride home and the seat sizing. A new suit was actually flown up for Butch Wilmore on the Crew 9 mission that arrived on the station at the end of September. Wilmore and Williams also performed suit donning and doffing activities to familiarize themselves with the suits and with Dragon systems during the handover between Crew 8 and Crew 9 back in September. And this is not a new activity for Williams and Wilmore. There you see a view of us here in Mission Control in Houston at the Johnson Space Center in the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Once again, the flight director in charge of tonight's operation is Marcos Flores, the lead flight director for Crew 9, joined on console by spacecraft communicator Tess Caswell, whose voice you will hear talking to the crew periodically during the time frame between now and hatch closure, and then between hatch closure and undocking through the time that the Freedom spacecraft leaves what is called the approach ellipsoid. Basically, I term it the neighborhood of the International Space Station, at which point integrated operations between the Johnson Space Center and Hawthorne will come to an end, and it will all be in Hawthorne's hands to bring the crew home.
SpaceX copies LiO unsealed at 0258 Zulu. Continue with IMV duct teardown and hatch closure.
And Freedom Houston on the big loop. Sounded like a good comm check with SpaceX. At your convenience, we'll take a comm check with us.
And Houston, Freedom's gets it loud and clear.
And you see at the hatchway the 4 departing Crew 9 crew members posing for some final photos. Final handshakes and hugs between the departing Crew 9 crew members and the crew members who will remain on board the International Space Station, maintaining a continuous human presence on the orbital laboratory that began on November 2nd, 2000. Once again, we're in a brief handover between satellites that provide the downlink TV capability from the station. We'll be regaining that downlink TV just a moment or two from now. You saw the Crew 9, 2 of the Crew 9 crew members, Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, already in their entry suits. Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov will don their suits once inside Dragon. Hague and Gorbanov flew up to the International Space Station back on September 28th. So they're wrapping up a mission almost 6 months in duration. Williams and Wilmore, of course, with their extended mission in the home stretch of a 9.5-month flight spanning 121.3 million statute miles. And now inside Dragon, you see Butch Wilmore on the far left. In the center of your screen, Alexander Gorbanov. Nick Hague on the far right. They will settle into their respective seats aboard Freedom as countdown clocks here in Mission Control are ticking backward toward the time of the command to initiate the opening of hooks holding Freedom to its docking port on the space-facing side of the Harmony module. That command to be issued about an hour and 55 minutes from now. The actual physical separation, what we peg as undocking for the history books, is scheduled at 12:05 a.m. Central, 1:05 a.m. Eastern.
SpaceX copies on hatch closure. We'll send a command momentarily to transition the state machine to hatch closed. You can reference your hatch closed event details for a few actions, and then complete suit donning per procedure 4.010.
Freedom copies all.
And Nick Hague aboard Freedom confirming that Dragon's hatch to the International Space Station is closed. That call coming at 10:05 p.m. Central Time, 11:05 p.m. Eastern Time. So the Crew 9 crew now safely aboard the Dragon Freedom will complete their suit-up procedures, do systems checks. There will be a series of leak checks between Freedom and the International Space Station at the docking interface. You see Sunny Williams on the far right-hand side of your screen. She will be seated next to Nick Hague, the Freedom commander. To Hague's right will be Alexander Gorbanov, and you see Butch Wilmore on the far left. On the far left of your screen, a good view of Dragon with its open nose cap. That nose cone will be closed following Tuesday's deorbit burn as part of the pre-entry procedures. Once again, moving into a quick handover here between satellites on our tracking and data relay satellite system. The Dragon crew all on board. The hatch is closed between Dragon and the International Space Station. The station hatch will be closed a short time from now, and leak checks at the docking interface between the two spacecraft will begin to make sure we have an airtight seal before the small passageway or vestibule known as pressurized mating adapter number 2 will be ready for depressurization down to vacuum and the subsequent undocking of Dragon from Harmony's space-facing port about an hour and 47 minutes from now.
Houston Station on 2 for IDA egress. We are in step 5.2 and we found some pieces of dust around the hatch seal area, so we are going to clean them with cotton tape.
Copy and concur with the plan.
Japan Aerospace Exploration. Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Onishi newly arrived on the station as part of Crew 10, noticing a few flecks of dust along the hatch seals, so he will clean those off. We want to make sure that there's no foreign object debris at that hatch seal that could compromise the integrity of an airtight seal between pressurized mating adapter number 2 and the interface with the Dragon Freedom.
Okay, copy. We are go for closing the Apex hatch, and I have one question for you.
Go ahead.
Another view of the crew aboard Dragon Freedom looking...
There is one SpaceX bag. It's labeled as unarmed PFD. The bag number is 153, and its carabiner is attached to one of the bungees in PMS3. Can we just leave it as it is?
Checking.
Once again, you're looking at a view across the 4 crew members, Butch Wilmore in the foreground, Alexander Gorbanov to his left, then Nick Hague, and just obscured on the far right-hand side of this configuration is Sunny Williams.
SpaceX Freedom on the big loop, section 5 complete. We've got everybody suited with successful intercom checks.
SpaceX copies on successful intercom checks. Continue to section 6.
Freedom, welcome.
And in preparation of the leak checks of the 4 suits by the Crew 9 crew members, Butch Wilmore and the others putting their hands in their gloves. Those will be securely zipped in place before the leak checks will begin.
Station Houston on the big loop for the bag.
Go ahead on to.
We would like you to remove that bag from PMA 3 temp stow in node 2, and we will find a permanent home for it after the undock.
Okay, we'll temp stow it in node 2.
SpaceX Freedom on the big loop, section 6 is complete.
SpaceX copies completion of 4.010.
The hatch between the International Space Station and pressurized mating adapter number 2 is now closed. The Dragon hatch was closed at 10:05 p.m. Central Time, 11:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Just about 2 minutes ago at 10:26 Central, 11:26 p.m. Eastern, the station hatch also closed, and that sets the stage for the vestibule depressurization and final leak checks at the docking interface. Another perspective of Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanoff. Butch Wilmore is to Gorbanoff's right. Essentially, you're looking over the shoulder of Sunny Williams, who's in the far left seat, if you will, in the seating configuration on the Dragon Freedom.
Freedom SpaceX on the big loop. You have a go for procedure 4.011. We'll meet you in section 2 when ready.
Freedom copies go for 4.011, see the tip, and we'll press through section 1. We'll check it with you in section 2.
Station Houston on the big loop for Ann prior to hatch close.
Right, Tess?
And taking a look at stowage in PMA 3 currently, we are seeing the APAS hatch cover, and we need that to go into the 0.5 CTB for DMAC.
Okay, we will put the hatch cover into the half CTB.
Thank you.
That conversation between Capcom Tess Caswell here in Mission Control and Ann McLean in your field of view, the Dragon Endurance Commander.
We are ready to pressurize.
As she checks the integrity of the hatch interface on the station side, the station hatch is closed. That's the androgynous docking adapter hatch. One more hatch has to be closed. That's the one between Harmony and the vestibule to International Docking Adapter 2. Meanwhile, leak checks now are beginning on the 4 suits of the Dragon Crew 9 passengers aboard the Dragon Freedom. The suit leak checks are underway. This should only take a minute or two.
And the Houston station on 2, checking for step 7.4.
Talk, you are go to deploy desiccant in 7.4.
Copy, go for 7.4.
SpaceX Freedom, we've got 4 good suits.
Freedom, we see the same 4 healthy suits.
And that call by Dragon Commander Nick Hague confirming that all 4 suits of the departing Freedom crew members have checked out, good leak checks on the suits, good integrity on those suits. So we now have set the stage for the undocking of the Dragon Freedom and the Crew 9 crew members just about 1 hour and 24 minutes from now. Just to recap, Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore accompanying Commander Nick Hague and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanoff for the ride downhill and a splashdown off the coast of Florida on Tuesday afternoon. We will be resuming our coverage, joined not just here at the Johnson Space Center by but by our colleagues in Hawthorne, California at the SpaceX Control Center. We will be back on the air just over an hour from now at 11:45 p.m. Central Time, 12:45 a.m. Eastern Time for the undocking of the Dragon Freedom and the Crew 9 crew from the International Space Station. The weather conditions off the coast of Florida and the splashdown sites continues to be good, with splashdown of Williams, Wilmore, Gorbanoff, and Hague scheduled for Tuesday afternoon at 4:57 p.m. Central Time, 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time. So with the Crew 9 crew strapped into their seats and good leak checks for their suits on the Dragon Freedom,